Good morning, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, and welcome to a special Sunday edition of the Pewter Report podcast presented by Walk-Ons. The big game is this next Sunday, and you're going to want to have a great party, right? You could take it to the next level by getting some food catered at Walk-Ons. They have 3 locations in the Tampa Bay area in Wesley Chapel, Midtown Tampa, and Lakeland. Eat like a winner, drink like a champ at Walk-Ons. So as mentioned, we're going to be doing a live Bucs mock draft show this morning. Pewter Report was on hand at Mobile, Alabama this past week. We saw plenty of great prospects. Some guys, they really elevated and raised their stock. Other guys, they may have fell a little bit. We're going to be breaking down all the prospects from a Bucs point of view, which guys could be a fit in Tampa Bay this coming season. Really excited. We're going to be doing a mock draft show every other Sunday from now until the 2026 NFL draft. But let's not waste any time. I'm your host, Adam Slivon, and joined with me is my wonderful colleague at Pewter Report, Josh Queipo. Josh, it's great to be doing this again. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Sly. I'm doing very well. For the feels like temperature here just outside of Atlanta, -1 degrees. So,
oh my gosh.
As cold as Mobile was, I miss it a little bit.
Yeah.
And we have some really fun stories we can kind of interlace with this since it's our Senior Bowl edition. But one of the things I think it is important for us to let the fans know, we braved the elements for Mobile.
We did.
Not just at the stadium. Our house did not have heat. And
yes,
we stuck it out through the night to make sure that we delivered the best coverage that we could at the Panini Senior Bowl.
And I remember the first year that we went together. We've been doing this for about 4 years now.
4 years, yeah.
It was really warm, and we had like a sunburn when we were doing the show. And now this year it was so cold, we had to go to Walmart, get some extra socks, and kind of stock up and stay warm. But it was a great time. And there's a couple people in the comments saying, yeah, it's cold. It's cold today in Tampa Bay. And we braved the elements, as you mentioned. Oh, shout out JC Allen here. My guys. Great to see you, JC.
What's up, JC?
So we're going to be talking about the Bucs mock draft. But before we hop in, I want to get your thoughts on the overall team needs of the roster. Obviously, it's on the defensive side of the football. But as you're looking towards the NFL draft, how would you go about addressing all the issues plaguing the current roster?
Ooh, buddy. Yeah, so I think as per usual, me being the contrarian of our group, I see linebacker as probably the bigger need. I know a lot of people point to edge rusher and say they haven't had that dominant number 1 edge rusher. When I look at Todd Bowles' defense, I feel like it really requires athleticism at the linebacker position, and that elevates everything around it. If we go back to when this defense was clicking, and it was clicking for a couple of years there when Todd was the DC, and even if you look at some of the results of the last couple of years of him as head coach, it was at its best when you had Levante kind of still at the tail end of his prime, and you had an uber athletic Devin White. For all of the things that I fault Devin White for as a linebacker, his issues in coverage, his sometimes unwillingness to get off of blocks or inability to get off blocks, it was his athleticism that he brought that allowed the defense to do some very specific things. And those things helped elevate their performance and their production. So for me, that's the number 1 need right there. Edge would be a secondary need. And then from there, I think it really depends on how Bowles and the team see their safety group going forward. Yeah. Does Tyke go back to the nickel? If he does, where does Jacob Parrish go? I was really high on was JJ Roberts in the preseason last year. How does he fit in coming back from a season-ending injury? So depending on how that safety group kind of works out, and specifically the nickel, then I would say there is a need in the secondary, just whether that's on the perimeter or more in the safety area itself remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think you touched on the biggest needs, especially on the defensive side. You can kind of have a toss-up, whether that's inside linebacker or edge rusher. You can really go either way because inside linebacker, especially for Bowles' defense, it's really important, and you need a great player there with Levante David now being 36 years old, Servassier Dennis kind of went through some ebbs and flows last year. You want that guy that can make plays. And we saw that at the Senior Bowl. There's two guys in particular. Everybody loves Jacob Rodriguez and the week that he had. He really showcased a lot of his playmaking ability. And then also Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh, another Pittsburgh backer. But he was really solid in coverage. And both of those guys, I think, really worked their way up in the conversation. For Rodriguez, he was talked about as a second, third round pick. He could even work his way into the late first round with the week he had. And then Kyle Lewis, he was somebody that you watched and you scouted a little bit, and he played a lot better than people thought.
Yeah, I think the big thing, everybody knew Kyle Lewis was, he was a coverage first linebacker. What people weren't expecting was how good that looked, specifically in the one-on-ones. And to try and explain it, these drills that they go through, these running back linebacker one-on-ones, they're designed to make linebackers look silly. All right. You've got basically no help in coverage because it's a one-on-one. You've got the back releasing, and he's got a two-way go, and he can break to the flat. He can break inside. Actually, it's a three-way go. He can break vertical, right?
Yeah.
Linebacker has absolutely no clue what that's going to be. And usually all the running back has to do is watch the linebacker lean and say, I'm going in the other direction, and he gone, right? And somehow Kyle Lewis, all but one rep across the 3 days that we watched, I might be exaggerating that, but I can only remember one rep where he lost. Every other rep, he was basically running the route for the back, breaking up the pass, intercepting the pass, or he was able to keep just a good kind of gap distance where once the catch was made, he was on top of it for a flat route. It was, in the 4 years we've been going, it was probably the best I've ever seen a linebacker run those specific drills. And that's the hardest drill you probably will ever have to run in terms of coverage. So it was incredible. But I think the other thing that he was able to showcase is, while his size limitations are a reasonable concern, he hates it, but they are a reasonable concern for how he's going to handle the next level, specifically being able to take on blockers and stack and shed. He showed that his speed and feel and instincts are good enough that he can usually beat blockers to spots, which allows him to make plays in the run game as well.
Yeah, and so we kind of have talked about the defensive needs. I want to get your thoughts a little bit on this comment here from JC. Might need a big, tall wide receiver if Mike leaves or develop behind him. And I think it's underrated. Like there's two sides of the football, right? You got to focus on defense, but also offense. Wide receiver, if Mike leaves, that becomes a little bit higher of a need. And then you have the tight end position. We could debate until our faces are blue about Cade Otton and his future. And then also another interior offensive lineman, maybe. Would you want Michael Jordan or Dan Feeney next year? I don't think so. What are your thoughts about the offensive needs too?
Yeah, I think you can find reasonably priced backup guards in free agency. I wouldn't be prioritizing that as a day one or day two need. That's not to say that if a guy who's just absolutely graded higher than some other positions of need happen to be there in the second or third round, then I don't think that it would be unreasonable for them to take a guard in that position. But then that's where you're looking, okay, that's a move for beyond 2026. That's probably you're moving on from Ben Bredesen in 2027, right? Or you're not re-signing Cody Mock. So I could see it. I don't think it should be a priority. But if the board shakes out where you've just got a guy who's miles away better in terms of your tape grade than other positions, I'm not usually a fan of taking a lesser player at a position of quote unquote need, because you never know what your needs are going to be once you get into the season, right? Nobody thought interior offensive line was going to be a need till last year when they did lose, just about everybody along the offensive line. Everybody lambasted the Emeka Egbuka pick because it wasn't a position of need, except it turned out to be like the position of need. So it's hard to forecast the future. So just take good players. As far as the wide receiver thing, I absolutely understand the thought process there. If Mike isn't back, then you need somebody who can kind of play that X role, somebody who's bigger, a perimeter ball winner. It's possible. I think a lot of it comes down to how Zach Robinson sees the roster and sees how his offense is going to play. It's important to remember that he comes from Sean McVay. He was there when McVay was making the Rams offense work with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Neither one of them are big, tall, outside perimeter winners. He designed an offense kind of with around 2F receivers and made it work. Yeah. So if Robinson is able to parlay that using Chris Godwin and Emeka Egbuka as his two primary receivers and create a world where there's a lot of motion, a lot of insert releases, a lot of crossings, it doesn't require that big traditional X receiver. So it's possible. It doesn't have to be, would be kind of how I frame that one.
Yeah, that's a great point when you look into like Robinson's blueprint, and he saw Sean McVay do it for so many years with Cooper Kupp, with Puka Nacua, a different kind of receiver than Mike Evans. But you saw what Liam Cohen did in 2024, kind of building the offense around Mike Evans. He was still very productive, had a great season. But last year, it was a little bit of a diversion. Even when Evans was on the field, Josh Grizzard didn't use him, as he has been in years past. So this season's going to be interesting. If Mike is re-signed, you still have so many weapons. Chris Godwin Jr., he's going to be better. Another year removed from his dislocated ankle injury. You have Emeka Egbuka. You're hoping that he can kind of round into form in his second season, because he went through a rookie wall late in the year, and you can kind of point to maybe some different reasons why that happened. And then you still have Jalen McMillan. You still have Tez Johnson. Like, there's a lot of weapons there. So the only way I could see Tampa Bay draft another wide receiver, like they really need one, is if Mike were to go.
Yep. I agree with that 100%.
And one more thought I want to get into before we start the live mock draft is the edge rushers. So you were watching them throughout the week. It's considered to be a deep class. And while Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor weren't out there, some guys, they stood out above others. What are your impressions of maybe TJ Parker, Romello Height, Nadame Tucker, and all those guys?
Yeah, Nadam Tucker is probably the one that I'm most excited about because he feels more like a gem who's rising. And because Scott and I had him in our first Pewter Report mock draft. So always nice to be able to have that connection. Romello Height, I thought, had some really great reps. TJ Parker's really interesting. I just finished up a full scouting report on him, which should be out on pewterreport.com in the next 48 hours or so. He's got some big league traits, some definite NFL traits. But I came away from watching his tape, and I watched a little bit of 2024, a little bit of 2025, a bit underwhelmed for the hype that he's getting. What's really interesting is I see him very much in the mold of a Yaya Diaby. He's big, he's strong, he's long, he's got this great long arm that's really the crux of everything that he does. I don't know if he's going to be an elite level finisher when he gets to the NFL. And the other thing that I think is really interesting, there are certain aspects of him fitting the run is really high against gap-based schemes, but against mid or wide zone and outside zone, I think he consistently fails to set the edge and stay on the outside shoulder against his blocker. And so I think that the floor may be a little bit lower than most people are assuming with him. I also think that the ceiling isn't quite as high. Not that I don't think that he'll be a multi-year starter in the NFL, just I don't think he has, for everything that Bucs fans really want from that next edge to be that dominant, high-level, alpha-type edge, I don't see it with TJ Parker. So he's the one who I've really dove into the most. But if you're looking for somebody from Senior Bowl who could potentially just be somebody who racks up double-digit sacks and a ton of pressures, maybe the run defense isn't that awesome. The two that probably excited me the most were Romello Height and Nadam Tucker.
Yeah, Nadame Tucker, I'm with you there completely. He had 14 and a half sacks last season in college. I believe that's the second highest throughout college football. And you bring up a point about TJ Parker. The one thing I'll say is that he's still only 21 years old, and he had a year of big-time production at Clemson in 2024, and you would hope that that would kind of translate more than his 2025 season because his sack total dipped. The Clemson Tigers defense, it kind of regressed, and maybe in a different kind of scheme, like Todd Bowles, he could have more success. I think he's really a player with a high ceiling. And then another guy would be Gabe Akis. He's also 21 years old. He comes from Illinois, and he had plenty of production. I thought he had a really good Senior Bowl week.
That's
Somebody
true.
like Yaya Diaby, a powerful rusher. They even kind of worked him inside at like the 4-eye. So he was getting some different looks on the edge, moving inside a little bit. And you can't deny his production throughout college, his last year there. I thought he put together a really good week as well.
I agree. And that's what I like about a couple of these guys, including Parker, who you mentioned earlier. And I think that's where Parker can get some added production. And I think you get that from Akis, in that they have the versatility to move inside. And for someone like Parker, his length plays up against guards. For Akis, he's built really big and strong, and he's got that power profile that they can win on the inside as well as the outside. So some really interesting, it just comes down to how willing would Todd Bowles be to move guys around. He hasn't done that as much in the recent seasons. Did it a little bit with putting Yaya and Hassan Reddick on the same side a couple times last year, but it's never been something that he's created like a real role for someone. And I think that could be a really nice evolution of his defense if he gets the right player. And even like Yaya could do that, but he's got to find someone who can threaten the outside to kick these guys in.
Yeah. So you're talking about getting the right player. Let's dive into the mock draft. I'm going to set it up real quick here.
By the way, using the best mock draft simulator out there. No bias from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Good old Pro Football Focus, PFF. There we go. All right. So have it set up here. 7-round mock draft for the Bucs. Are all these settings fine with you, or?
Those settings are fine, but before we enter the draft, let harken back to last year. Do we want to set up any free agency moves?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then are we doing any special, we're planning the show on the show. Are we doing any special caveats to this? I know we said this is our post-Senior Bowl mock. So are we doing only Senior Bowl players, or are we leaving it open to everybody?
I was thinking doing Senior Bowl only players.
Let's go. I like it. Okay.
I would make an exception, maybe if it's like Akeem Mesidor, because it's like he was on the roster. He's on the back of my Senior Bowl
Anybody
t-shirt.
who accepted a Senior Bowl invite. I like that. That's awesome. Nice little loophole there. All right. And then, so we got $50 million to spend in free agency. That's cash, and we're going to use the APYs as just what the cash outlay would be. So any internal players you're keeping? I'm leaving the free agency moves to you, Sly.
Okay, I would say Mike Evans, 1 year, $18 million.
All right, I got it locked in. Mike's back.
$32 million left over. You're gonna like it. Let's bring back Kate Otten.
We should also we'll open up for a super chat for any free agent move that any of our viewers would like to put in there.
Yeah, definitely. So if you want a specific player throughout the draft, just leave a little super chat, and we'll definitely consider them as the draft goes on. I know you'll be happy. I think we, in this situation, could re-sign Cade Otten.
Cade's back. All right. We already won the draft, and we didn't even have to participate. We're going to call it 1 for 11 for Cade. So we're up to $29 million. We got $21 million to go.
All right. Ooh, have a couple good comments here. Adafe Owe. Really like the second half he had with the Chargers. Nakobe Dean.
Okay. Dean's interesting. I know he's a very talented player. I think that there are other linebackers in this free agency class who would be a better fit and with less injury concerns. But we could certainly go with Dean. We could go with Owe. Let me pull up the projections on their cost.
So are you Devin Bush?
Devin Bush. I love that suggestion, personally.
The Jags linebacker would be Devin Lloyd. He's another option. I think those are the big three at inside linebacker in free agency. Some order of the two Devins, Devin Bush, Devin Lloyd, and then also Nakobe Dean.
Okay. So Owe would be basically $20 million at 19 and a quarter. Bush is around $12 million. Devin Lloyd would be about $16 million. And then who was the other one that you had mentioned? Nakobe Dean, right?
Yes.
And Kobe Dean, we're looking at probably a little less than 14 million. So who do you want to go with, Sly?
Ooh, that's a good question.
29 million to spend.
I would say Devin Bush.
Bush, there's 12. Okay.
And then we have 17 left over.
You have 17 left over.
Ooh. Somebody said Calais Campbell and Von Miller, 2 veterans. Trey Hendrickson is interesting. What's his APY?
I've got him at 21.
Ooh, just over. Joey Bosa or Jadeveon Clowney? What are those?
So Bosa, let me see. I've got him around here. Give me just a minute. Clowney, I've got 4 million on.
Okay.
His pressure rate went up last year. That's an interesting one. And then Joey Bosa, as of right now, let's see. Oh, wrong tab. I know this is exciting stuff for our viewers right now. Just watching.
Yes.
There we go. Probably about 14 million on Bosa, and his production went down a considerable amount last year.
All right, so I would say for free agency, the last 2 moves that we would make would be Jadeveon Clowney. I think for 4 million, he has more upside than Anthony Nelson, and you're not really drafting him to be the number 1 or number 2, or signing him to be the number 1 or number 2. You want to draft a guy and have him as a really good number 3. Okay. And then the other one, special teamer Miles Killebrew from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's somebody I wrote about for Danny Smith's unit. Get him for the veteran minimum. Then you have a little bit of cash left over.
All right. Well, you can use that cash to potentially do some type of extension, but we don't need to get into that. So just to recap real quick, we brought back Mike Evans, meaning that wide receiver room stays very strong. Cade Otton, who occupies that number 1 tight end who can work in line, work in the slot. He's not fantastic at anything, but he's not bad at anything. And he can allow your offense to do whatever you want. Devin Bush helps fill one of those linebacker needs. Interesting that we did not bring back Levante David, although we still have $12 million, so we certainly could afford to bring him back. Jadeveon Clowney, who helps kind of fill that edge 3, edge 4, along with a returning David Walker.
Yep.
And then Miles Killebrew. So we still don't have that edge 1. We still don't have that second linebacker unless you really believe in Servassier Dennis. And then the secondary is kind of in flux with Zion McCollum coming off of a down season, and then some combination of Jacob Parrish and Benjamin Morrison filling that second corner role, and then some combination of Tyke Smith, Jacob Parrish, and J.J. Roberts filling the nickel, which means safety is potentially in flux as well.
Yeah, that's a great overview. And again, this is a first scenario that we're doing. As we continue to do these, maybe we'll kind of play around with some other hypotheticals. JC with the $1.99 super chat, thank you. Tevin Jenkins, backup interior offensive lineman. What do you have his APY at?
I don't think I've gotten to him yet, but it would certainly be within the 12 million that you've saved. So we can add that and say that we have now brought in a veteran backup guard. Okay. So it's a good move. It's a good move.
Yeah,
that means guard becomes less of a need in the draft. But I think we've got enough free agency moves that we can go ahead and hit that blue button, get to the thing that all of the viewers are excited about. Do we trade up?
You know, I saw a comment about trading up for Ruben Bain, and he would be a really good addition to the pass rush. He had a big season at Miami, but the assets, you know, Jason Light loves his draft picks.
It would require a pretty big move up, I think. And what's interesting is we'd have to really slow down the pace of the draft to figure out where we would want to be to get Bain. So I think the Raiders going with Fernando Mendoza is kind of a lock. I don't know if the Jets
turn down the speed from turbo to fast. I think that's
that depends. Do we want to lock in that we're going to move up for Bain, or do we want to hold on to pick 15? I think I see a lot of comments saying no.
Don't do it. Yeah. I would say holding off. I think Ruben Bain's a really good player, but I like the idea of trading down a little bit more, especially with this draft class. And we talked with Trevor a little bit at the Senior Bowl, and it's like there's a lot of solid players, there's a lot of good players, and you can make the argument of, maybe trading for a great player, but that's also parting with so many draft picks, or you could stockpile maybe a couple day 2 picks and trade down.
Yeah. I'm very early into this class, so I wouldn't be able to say with any authority or conviction what the best move to do at this point is, just from a very high level point of view. I say let's go ahead and hit start draft. We'll go to 15. We'll see who's there. For everybody in the chat, please remember we're only taking guys who have or who accepted Senior Bowl invites or were at the Senior Bowl. I know Michael Plus of Real Bucs Talk is going to be so upset because Cassius Howell was not at the Senior Bowl. I don't think he accepted an invite, and therefore he is off the board. Yeah, we cannot go with him on this. Although this, I think, is the first time I've seen Howell available at 15 and playing around with the simulator on my own. So who do we have?
I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let us know in the comments if you can see like what players were taken. All right. If not, I can, tweak it a little bit. We have Fernando Mendoza going number 1, Arvell Reese number 2, Ruben Bain Jr. number 3. So
that would have been a big trade. 15-3 is near impossible. You're giving away multiple drafts for that move.
David Bailey 4, the wide receiver from Arizona State, Tyson 5, Caleb down 6, Sonny Styles, who I think would be a great fit. Yep, for the Bucs. He went number 7. I had Carnell Tate 8, Jeremiah Love 9, Mekhi Lemon 10, Francis Mwiga 11, Mansour Delane 12, Jermon McCoy 13, Keldrick Falk 14, and the Bucs are on the clock.
All right. So I see a comment. I think we lost Sonny for good from Low Country Pirate. I don't necessarily agree with that. Taking linebackers that high is not something the NFL does a whole lot because of the way that the 5th-year option is treated, the price of linebackers in free agency. I'm not saying he will be there. I'm saying it's not a foregone conclusion that he's gone. But let's get into the pick. So Caleb Banks, he was at the Senior Bowl, so I think he is the highest rated Senior Bowl board player in this simulator. Sly, you got a chance to watch Banks a little bit. What were your thoughts in Mobile?
To be honest with you, I wasn't that impressed with Caleb Banks. I think he's an all right player, but probably on day 2. I don't think he's a first-round talent. I would rather go with Lee Hunter from Texas Tech. I think he kind of fits the Bucs defense a little bit more. You would want to draft a bigger defensive tackle to maybe take over Vita Vea's spot, because Vea, as much as everybody loves him and the presence that he has, he's now in his 30s. It's an age where defensive tackles start to regress a little bit. So I like Lee Hunter a lot more than Caleb Banks. I think he's like a 2nd, 3rd round talent.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think there were a lot of reps because I was focused on linebacker that I missed, which were high-end reps by Banks, and you can see them on social media. I went back and looked at them on some of the tape from Senior Bowl. So I can see, because a lot of people outside of our group were really high on him, thought he was one of the best players of the week. It just so happened whenever we had our eyes fixated on him, we just weren't seeing it. So I'm not a huge fan of Banks there. What are some of the other Senior Bowl? If we can scroll down, do we see any other guys who could be first rounders? TJ Parker, who I just got done saying I'm not so high on.
Yeah, I mean, the production there, though, in 2024, when you look at it, PFF gives him 12 sacks. He had 6 forced fumbles. But again, as we mentioned, he regressed in a big way last season.
Yeah, in terms of production, I would say the tape a little bit as well. And I think at the NFL level, I think the 2025 version of TJ Parker is probably going to be the more realistic version of him. You did mention Mesidor, who accepted a Senior Bowl invite, even though we didn't get to view him there. I haven't had a chance to get my eyes on him, so I would have to defer to you. Do we have any trade offers on the table?
There's two. The Lions at 17,
Okay.
which isn't that far back,
No.
Or the Denver Broncos at 30, which could be interesting.
30, that would be a huge trade up. Let's see here. I'm going to pull up the Jimmy Johnson trade chart.
See, because if you trade down to 30, then you can maybe, think of somebody like Gabe Akis.
Yeah, the difference there, 1050 to 620, it's 430 points. What are the Broncos' additional picks? How can we build a 430 value?
30, 62, 94.
62 would be 284 points. So then we're probably at that point talking about a 2027 pick on because the next one would be around 89. So it would require Denver to give up their top 3 picks, 30, 62, and 94, which just seems very unrealistic.
Here we go.
Maybe
there's
30
a few ideas in the chat here.
What's that?
I really like this one. What about a trade down with the Steelers for their pick and Nick Herbig?
I love Nick Herbig. I thought Trevor had an excellent. For those of you who I should contextualize this. For those of you who have not seen the Pro Football Focus Stock Exchange podcast with former Pewter reporter Trevor Sikkema and Connor J. Rogers of NBC Sports, they have a fantastic show. They do a Fix Your Franchise series, and they did one on the Bucs a few months ago. And Trevor suggested the Bucs should trade for Nick Herbig, which I think is a very, very interesting thought process there. Let's see what that would look like. So where is Pittsburgh picking?
They're picking at 21.
You said 21?
Yeah.
Okay. So the difference in those two picks is 800. It's 250 points, which is about a third rounder. Herbig is probably worth a second rounder. So you're talking about, so probably the Bucs would have to trade a first, their first and their third for Pittsburgh's first and I'm trying to think this through. So
I think we have 3 options here. We either stick and pick at 15, we trade down a little bit, maybe go to 30 with the Broncos, stack a couple picks, and then the third option would be trading for Nick Herbig from the Steelers.
Yeah, I like the Herbig option. Let's do that.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah,
So they're not interested in the pick, but I think, we could maybe hit the Forcers trade button.
Well, let's build something and offer it and see what they think. And then we can always force the trade if need be.
Because I think it's a fair trade. I think with already having Highsmith and TJ Watt under contract, they'd be open to it, especially with the new head coach now.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. The Bucs would probably have to add a little here. I would say the Bucs would probably need to add like a fourth. Let's see what that looks like.
Yeah, so 15, 116 for 21, Herbig. Okay, it went through. So we're going to go down a little bit. I think that's a good move to add another pass rusher, and you stay in the first round.
Okay. All right. Well, now the edge room is Herbig, Yaya, Jadeveon Clowney, David Walker, Chris Braswell, Anthony Nelson.
I think that's solid. And you could still maybe add like an Adame Tucker in like the 4th, 5th round. I think that'd be a really great addition to round out the room.
Yep. And they still have their first round pick.
Yep. So let's get into it. We can maybe expedite and speed this up a little bit because we want to, be time conscious here too.
Sure.
So at number 21, you still have TJ Parker here. Not a ton of Senior Bowl guys, at least here.
And all the ones that are there are typically edges, but yeah, I thought Colton Hood had a pretty solid week. And this would give the Bucs some insurance at that corner position, which is currently in flux. So yeah, I mean, Hood, I think Hood went one-on-one with, he had a bad rep against that Division II kid. I can't remember his name, Tyron something.
Montgomery from John Carroll.
That's right, yeah. But then came back on day 2 and 3 and really helped lock him up and had a much better kind of end to his Senior Bowl week. So I kind of like the Colton Hood pick here, considering, or that would still be really early for Lee Hunter.
Yeah, I think right now it's Colton Hood, Lee Hunter, and
way too early.
I think the edge position's really solidified, at least in our scenario.
Yeah,
so you can let us know in the comments, but I think it's Colton Hood.
Okay, let's see what they think.
And then still have a 2nd round pick too to maybe play with. Maybe in that case you can get Lee Hunter if he's still on the board. Oh, 1 second here. There we go.
Okay.
Let's see. A couple. Hunter's a pick here. Hunter. I think we go Lee Hunter then.
All right. Looks like Lee Hunter's the guy.
So we'll have to find a corner maybe a little bit later in the draft, but we're going to go with Lee Hunter here. We find him. Boom.
All righty.
So we're at number 46 in the 2nd round. Colton Hood is still on the board, Josh.
Still there.
He's still there.
Which is interesting. If we take him, I think from a plausibility standpoint, it's probably Hunter goes after Hood, and we're just reversing the picks.
Yeah, I really like the Colton Hood pick here.
What about linebacker? Is this too early for Jacob Rodriguez, who I know everybody at Pewter Report loved? I think I may be the lowest on him right now. But everybody, I know Bailey and Scott are having a competition to see who is the highest on him at the moment, including
him here.
Bailey Adams. He put something really, really strange into the world. If the Bucs end up taking Jacob Rodriguez, that would be amazing.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that unfolds on the Pewter Report live draft show in April. But for Jacob Rodriguez, I think he's worked his way into the 2nd round conversation, Josh. And I think the Bucs still need another linebacker here, even if you sign one in free agency. Even in the scenario you bring Levante David back, you need 2 starting inside linebackers before next season. So Devin Bush, I think, is one, at least in our scenario. But Jacob Rodriguez, man, he would do so good and make so many plays.
Yeah, I mean, a ton of ball production. And we got to see it on display in Mobile, where he had a forced fumble where he just ripped a ball out of a running back's hand. And then a couple of interceptions across the week as well. Had probably one of the top 4 or 5 weeks out of all players there. So I would be open to this. So Colton Hood, Jacob Rodriguez, I think either way, pretty solid value there, considering where we're limiting our board to. Let's put it to the group. Let's put it to the chat.
I will say you could probably cheese the board a little bit and draft Hood now, and then probably draft Rodriguez in the 3rd round. I just don't know if Rodriguez would slip on to the 3rd round in real life.
Right. There is a chance of it, but I agree that right now his arrow is firmly stock up.
Or 2nd round pick Colton Hood, 3rd round pick Kyle Lewis.
I like where you're cooking.
Might be cooking something. But
right.
We'll wait for a couple of comments to come in for some feedback. But I think our board is coming together really nicely. I think free agency, trading for Herbig from the Steelers was huge. Not too many other options here.
All right.
I haven't seen any comments come through.
Then let's go ahead. We can make that pick. Do you want to go with Hood or do you want to go with Rodriguez?
I would say Hood.
All right.
Because you need a corner. And I don't know if Benjamin Morrison's it. Jacob Parrish, I like him more at the nickel. And Jamel Dean, you're losing your best corner from last year. It's a passing league, so I would say Hood.
All right. Let's lock it in.
All right. So looks like we're still good to draft Jacob Rodriguez in the third.
Okay. Let's take a look and see who else is there.
Yeah.
Let's see if there are any offensive players at this point.
Gennings, Dunker,
that
baby.
was the one I was looking for.
Let's go. He won the hay bale toss, not once, but twice.
But twice.
So
he's got the red mullet. He's actually, I loved his interviews that he gave. I thought just a really, really smart guy, really, really nuanced in his answers, but then he's got that mean streak too. So Rodriguez would be great here. I think there is other linebacker talent that can be had. Obviously, I'm a big Kyle Lewis guy myself. And then you could get Dunker, who provides you with inside-outside versatility as a depth offensive line piece.
Yeah. And I don't know if offensive line here, I know Jason Light would like to draft all offensive linemen, but I don't think it's a priority, especially because we also signed Tevin Jenkins. And Jacob Rodriguez, for as much as his stock is up, Josh, there are still some limitations to his game. And we saw a couple of years ago, at least I remember, everybody was so high on Peyton Wilson, I believe out in North Carolina State. And they're like, man, he's going to be a first rounder. But, you know, he slipped in the draft. And while he's still a solid linebacker, you know, there's a reason that everybody isn't like Jacob Rodriguez, first rounder. He's a shoo-in.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just did a full write-up on Rodriguez, watched a lot of his tape. And for all the things that were very exciting about him in the Senior Bowl, there are some limitations to his game. I don't think he is the most fluid athlete out there. I think he's great in a straight line, but there are a lot of times where he can just get walled off his gaps, struggles to get off of blocks. You can see that when the front is well defined, he's really great playing downhill. But as soon as the front gets muddied and he has to work across multiple gaps, kind of feeling his way through that muddiness as the back tries to find an outlet, that's where he can oftentimes just kind of get lost in the sauce. So, and then out in space, again, not as fluid as Kyle Lewis. So there are going to be times where the better athletes at running back can potentially make him miss. So, again, not a perfect player. That's why he's not a first rounder. But I think for all the excitement that we've had, what is his ceiling? Is it it's a multi-year starter, but maybe not just this really high-end player. So
yeah, and it looks like a lot of the comments, J-Rod is my first choice. He'll still be there in the simulator. J-Rod. I think it's obvious. We're going to go Jacob Rodriguez here.
The chat wants J-Rod. Again, you can override the chat with a super chat. So if you should throw us a super chat, you will get to be Jason Light for that pick. So just want to put that out there if you feel very passionately about any player.
All right, so we don't have a fourth round pick, but we're in round 5. Just to give a little recap, 2 Texas Tech players here. We got Lee Hunter after trading down with Pittsburgh to get Nick Herbig, Colton Hood in the second round, and Jacob Rodriguez in the third round.
Okay.
So just to go to the draft board, we're in round 5.
Okay.
Nadame Tucker's there.
Yeah, let's double dip. Like that's where I'm
at. Or
oh no, the simulators. It's like trying to choose between my children. Actually, I think choosing between my children would be an easier pick for me. That's a tough one.
So just to look a little bit here, Nadame Tucker had a great season. Pro Football Focus, they loved him. They gave him a 91.4 grade, but his pass rush grade, I think, really stands out here. And I actually had the chance to interview him, and he was talking about just how much he loves to attack the quarterback, use his bend, use his athleticism. You saw it on display, just his ability to really impact plays, I think really stood out.
Yeah, absolutely. And to give some additional context to his production, I track a few things. So his tackles for loss rate. So that means the percentage of his snaps that he plays where he gets a tackle for loss in the 75th percentile among all edge defenders. His tackle for loss was in the 85th percentile. His defensive stop percentile was rate was in the 98th percentile, which means a play where the offense doesn't have a positive, right? And then his pass rush win rate was in the 100th percentile. So basically, nobody was better than him at winning one-on-ones. His pressure rate was in the 98th percentile. His true pass set pressure rate was in the 96th percentile. And I think this is the big one for Bucs fans, his conversion rate. And what I mean by conversion rate is how often does he convert a pressure into an actual sack, was in the 86th percentile. Now, coming out of Western Michigan, he was going up against a different level of competition than your David Baileys, your TJ Parkers, you guys coming from Power 5 school or Power 4 schools. But you still don't want to ignore the fact that in that environment, if you're going to show that you are a NFL guy, you have to dominate. And Nadam Tucker dominated his competition. So I think that would be a fantastic pick. I love Kyle Lewis. I waxed poetic about him at the top of this podcast. So I think the chat has heard my thoughts on him. I think either one of those guys would be a fantastic pick here.
I agree. Real Bucs talk. Shout out to you guys over there. Wish Tucker wasn't 26. You already have that with David Walker. And that's the thing, right? It's like if you draft Nadame Tucker, you want him to impact sooner rather than later. But will he in the Bucs outside linebacker room, especially because we already traded for an outside linebacker? You have Yaya Diaby, Jadeveon Clowney here, Anthony Nelson, Chris Braswell. Like if you draft Tucker, maybe you pick Braswell off the team.
Yeah, my pushback on that, and it's a great point by Real Bucs Talk there. I think age is a bigger prohibitive factor or a more advanced age when you're talking day 1 and day 2 picks. Day 3 picks, you're just hoping you got a guy who will finish his rookie contract with you. That's the definition of success for a day 3 pick, right? And with Tucker, I would be more worried about his age if you're sitting there saying he needs to improve. Here are specific areas of his game or his physique, his athleticism that needs to develop. I think who he is right now physically is what he's going to be. That's the truth with basically any 26-year-old. And I think that plays at the NFL level. And then does he really need to improve massive amounts of his game in order to translate? I don't think that's the case. So it's not a guy that you have to say, well, is he going to be there for the second contract? It's a 5th round pick. You don't expect that out of any 5th round pick. You're just saying, I'd like him to finish his current contract. So given the risk reward profile of the pick, I'm okay with it. But it's a great point brought up by Real Bucs Talk there, that he is an older prospect, which is part of the reason why he's still considered maybe a day 3 guy.
Yeah, and before we get into our couple day 3 picks left, I do want to mention one more time our presenting sponsor for today's show, and that is Walk-Ons. So you can head to Walk-Ons. There's 3 locations in the Tampa Bay area: Wesley Chapel, Midtown Tampa, and Lakeland. And it feels like the Winter Olympics outside a little bit. It's very cold today. There's going to be a hockey game actually at Raymond James Stadium this afternoon. They're going to be playing the Boston Bruins. And the Olympics starts February 6th. It's going to carry through until the 22nd. So you can catch all the action over at Walk-Ons. All right, we are going to hop back in here. All right, so I think it's Tucker or Lewis. I'm leaning Tucker. I think
Let's see what the chat thinks. Although I did see a comment that this is rigged. Cassius Howell accepted his Senior Bowl invite. I missed that. So, but we did get Nick Herbig. So
yeah, Tucker would make a solid edge room. Signed a linebacker in free agency already and drafted a starter there, and Jacob Rodriguez. You still have Servassier Dennis at 3. So adding to the edge rotation makes sense here. And that's a position you want to stockpile. Like you see some of the best teams around the NFL, the 49ers, the Eagles, like they build in the trenches. Jason Light likes doing it. And you want to have a solid first rotation, but also a second rotation.
All right. I think we've seen, I also see Lewis here is the classic light double dip.
Yeah, that is true.
So kind of 50-50. We'll say the next comment will tip the scales. Kyle Lewis or Nadam Tucker. And if not, I'll give it to you. You said you think the trenches slack?
Yeah.
All right. Then we're not going to spend all day waiting for a comment. So let's do it. Let's lock in Nadam Tucker.
All right. So we're going to go down to the 6th round, pick 194.
Okay.
Owen Heineke.
Yeah. Heineke would be a good special teamer.
Although
I think Bryce Becker may be he would be my preference at linebacker there.
Yeah, he'd be mine too. Ephesians Prize Sock is an elite name, and he was at the Senior Bowl. He'd also be another corner option.
Can you open up this is gonna be sacrilege for me. Can you just open up tight end?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Not seeing a ton of guys. I know you guys had Rohan Jones in your mock draft. He wasn't at the Senior Bowl though. Matthew Hibner.
He had a really solid week. Matthew Hibner out of Southern Methodist University.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's definitely the 2 tight ends we talked about, Becker and Heineke. Interesting. What
I like
about
Becker?
Try to think.
Luke Altmer as a backup quarterback option. I know there's a comment in here from that W. He make a good backup for Baker. You look at Teddy Bridgewater, and he's 33 years old, I believe. So always draft quarterback.
Yeah.
Rayshawn Benny, defensive lineman from Michigan.
Okay.
Where are you leaning, Josh?
I would lean Becker right now.
I like it. Comes from a baseball background, too. He was drafted by the Houston Astros. So he really likes to see the full range of the field, whether that's baseball as an outfielder or linebacker in football. He'd be a fun pick. Ooh, Bud Clark.
I'm sure Bud Clark is way off the board at this point.
Yeah, I believe so. VJ Payne is there. He had a good week. Yeah, I think he's long gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's stick with
Becker?
Yeah. Sorry, Betcher. I apologize.
Betcher? Okay.
Somebody just corrected me. All right. Altmaier leading off.
I think he was the best quarterback in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Very efficient. He'd be fun.
Yeah. Is Hibner still on the board?
Yes.
Okay. I would be okay with that one.
You want to draft a 5'9" quarterback?
Guy's got swag.
Yeah.
All right. How about Cole Brevard? Is he available? Was Cole Brevard on the Senior Bowl?
I don't think so. That's not a name I recall.
Yeah, I don't remember him. Yeah, I don't think he was there. So just a reminder, we're doing only Senior Bowl picks for our opening one.
Just signed Drew Lock. I don't know that we're in the quarterback development game. Drew Lock, he's on the sidelines, lip syncing some rap lyrics. He'd be a fun, swaggy addition too. Just throwing that out there.
I would love to get Pavia just to see him and Baker together in the same room.
Yeah. I like the Hibner pick, though. Add another tight end, maybe?
Yeah. I like Hibner. He made a couple of really nice grabs.
And we've leaned very defense heavy here. I mean, all of our picks have been defense. So we can have some fun, draft a tight end. A real Bucs talk. Unless his name is Cassius Howell, then it's Senior Bowl only.
All right. So I think let's go Hibner here. Let's get an offensive player. This has been a defense heavy draft, but I think we've established the Bucs do have a lot of needs on defense. I also think that this draft class so far in general, from what I've heard from people I trust, is defense heavy. So
yeah. Oh, PFF hated the Lee Hunter pick. Probably a little bit early for him.
Yeah.
But
what'd they give?
I do like the trade though.
The trade was great. You get Nick Herbig, Nadam Tucker. You're getting and then Jadeveon Clowney from the free agency haul. At linebacker, you're getting Devin Bush to pair with Jacob Rodriguez and Bryce Betcher. I think that's really strong. You pull in Colton Hood to pair with Zion McCollum, Jacob Parrish, and Benjamin Morrison. You've addressed all three levels of your defense with a good combination of free agents, of veterans, and then also the draft here. So
I really like it, and I think the grade would be a B or a B plus had we swapped Colton Hood and Lee Hunter. I think that knocked it down a little bit.
Probably,
Lee Hunter's a second-round player, but also in a draft where outside of maybe the top 12 picks, it's a real wild card. Like you're going to see second-round guys or maybe third-round guys if a team likes them enough, and they're going to draft them with a premium pick. So keep that in mind too. But again, all three levels of the defense you'd feel a lot more comfortable in, especially with Kalijah Cansey back along the defensive line. You have Vita Vea, Lee Hunter, Elijah Roberts. I think that's really key.
Bring back Logan Hall.
Yeah, that's another option. I know you like him too. But this was a fun exercise and a lot of good Senior Bowl players here.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about this first one. It's probably our most challenging mock draft because we limit our board so much. But I really enjoy the exercise, but I really like what we're going to build coming out of this. So our next one, 2 weeks from now, we open the entire board up, and we've been able to build a decent draft, I think, here with just Senior Bowl guys. So once we start adding the entire board where Cassius Howell will be available on the next one, along with so many other players, how we can improve upon this. So, but I think probably my favorite thing about this one was our free agency strategy and the trade for Herbig. I think that helped really allow us to be more selective on our picks there. So.
Yeah, I know you love the free agency strategy because it involved Kate Otten, but I think this Bucs blueprint would lead to a lot better defense next year. If you could take a below average defense, make them average, and the offense, if it went from being maybe middle of the pack, like 18th to 20th, if they can get back to being a top 10 offense, I think you're going to see a lot more games next year where there's close wins like there was in the first half, and maybe this gets the Bucs back to being a 10-win team.
Yep. No, I think that's a really great point. So, all right.
Well, this was a fun show with you, Josh. And in the meantime, before our next podcast tomorrow, you can check us out at pewterreport.com. All our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, X, at Pewter Report. And this has been a great show with Mr. Josh Queipo. And thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next time for the Pewter Report podcast. Out.